Welcome to the beginning, Genesis. I'm Craig with the Texas Truck Channel, and behind me had the Genesis GV70. You've heard of the G70, you've heard of the G80. The V means SUV, and we've got one now. The GV80 came out first. This is a little bit smaller version. And you can see, styling-wise, they've continued the theme they had on the cars with the G70, and they've made it work quite well as they've heightened it. It's still low and wide, which will help a lot in the corners, which we'll get to that later, but we think it works really well in SUV form. My particular favorite feature, although I like the Bentley theme up front, which there's a reason for that because they stole a guy from Bentley, I love the rear 3/4 and how it slopes back down to the exterior taillights. I think that looks really sharp. With that, let's get into the interior.
We have Patreon.
Oh, yes. Also, if you haven't noticed already, we have a Patreon account. Please check that out to help support more videos like these so we can keep those rolling. Thanks.
Welcome to the GV70 interior, and man, is this the best thing we've seen from Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis so far, at least in our experience. Now, there's some themes. You've got ovals and you've got jewels, and that's everywhere. The steering wheel is a 2-spoke design, which, by the way, that's super cool. We love the way that thing looks. You've got jewels. There are no knobs for the audio. Those are only scrolls, and they scroll and they're knurled, and that's pretty cool. You have the gear selector, which looks like a jewel. It is plastic, but it looks like a jewel. And we also have the infotainment, which has been a real sticking point for me in particular. Day one with this vehicle, Apple CarPlay didn't work. That's fine. I tried to get the Bluetooth to connect. Every time I was connecting it, on this particular morning, it would default back to the home screen every 30 seconds. So if I'm in a sub menu, if I'm messing with audio controls, it would reset and go back. It was very frustrating. Later that night, I updated the navigation. It was due for an update on that. That fixed the return to home situation. But ever since then, the Apple CarPlay has not worked consistently, not reliably. It's just not happening here. There is no wireless Apple CarPlay. There is a plugged-in version, and it wasn't working. I changed cords. We've gone through all this stuff. The good news is the Bluetooth connectivity using the the Genesis infotainment works really well. It connects effortlessly, and you can see your audio coming up. You can scroll through navigation menus very, very well. So the alternative to CarPlay is pretty good. Thankfully, that's there. Now, light treatment. This is something that Genesis has been good about for a long time. No exceptions here. The interior has the ambient lighting. You actually have door panels that light up too. That's really cool. And the Lexicon stereo is top notch. I can't believe how good it is. I find myself constantly impressed with that. The highs and the lows are there. There's no bows here for sure. So, all that covered, let's head to the shop and see why this thing handles and goes so well.
Welcome to the under the hood portion. Behind me, I've got the Korean small block, which means it's a 4-cylinder turbo. They call it the Smart Stream. I don't know what Smart Stream means, but that's what it is. So you can figure out what Smart Stream means. I'm sure there's an emoji for that. Anyways, this is a little different than the G70 it's based on. The G70 has a 2-liter or a 3.3-liter V6. The GV70, the SUV, which is newer, based on the G70 sedan, has a 2.5-liter or the 3.5-liter V6. This one's the 2.5. It's found in all kinds of cars, and that's why we're jokingly calling it the Korean small block. You can find it in the Kia Sorento, the Kia K5, the Hyundai Santa Cruz, the Hyundai Sonata. It's in a lot of things. It just works. And it works well here too. Best part about this application is this is where it's most potent. It makes 300 ponies. It does require premium fuel, but that's the most powerful one in the Hyundai Genesis Kia lineup. Speaking of the premium fuel, it's EPA rated at 22 city, 28 highway. We did our best to get the best highway run out of it, not keeping our foot out of it, and we got 25 at best. On average, we averaged between 21 and 22 is kind of where we ended up. Is that a problem? I don't think it's a problem. The buyer that's buying this, I don't think is too concerned about that. And it's not terrible, but it's not great. So just keep that in mind. What's it paired to? It's paired to the Hyundai in-house 8-speed rear-wheel drive application transmission. And it's good. It's not the best in the industry. It's not the fastest in the industry, but it's really smooth and you never catch it out. So you just don't worry about it. With that, let's see what's making this thing steer and turn real good with the suspension. Let's see what Brian's got with that.
Welcome to the nuts and bolts portion of the GV70, and we're going to start with the wheels and tires because tread shows us intent from the manufacturer. These are 19-inch wheels that are actually very, very light for what they are. They are wrapped in 235, 55, 19 Michelin Primacy Tours. You can check the tread right here. That tells you right there, that is not meant for the dirt, despite our best intentions. What it is good at is highway. It's incredibly quiet. It's also very good at handling. This is a rear drive chassis, which means the transmission and engine are running this way, not that way, like a front wheel drive car. And we've actually, even though this is all-wheel drive only, we've been able to get it to oversteer in a couple different scenarios, which tells you a lot about the dynamics and the chassis tuning. That's a good thing, and it's probably the strong point of this vehicle. Now, on the front, we do maintain a McPherson strut design, but we do have a multi-link lower control arm setting. What that means is you have two lower control arms. Instead of a traditional A arm, you have two different arms coming together with independent mounting points on both ends of that control arm. Now, the steering. This is something we'll talk about in dynamics more, but this thing steers way better than it has any business doing. And the reason why it is that good is because it is a front steer design, just like a Mazda Miata, which means the steering rack is on the front side of the axle and the tie rod is mounted dead center with the hub center of the vehicle. All of this stuff is straight from the G70 sedan and it works just as well here. We also have a cast aluminum knuckle front and rear, which means there's no steel there. There's a lot of aluminum up front. It's not quite the case in the rear. Out back you have a 5-link or multi-link design. A lot of control arms in a lot of different directions going all over the place, but triangulating very well on everything and makes it ride well and handle very well. Now the subframe out back is steel as well as the control arms. You do maintain the aluminum knuckle. Brakes are twin piston up front, single in the rear, and they are a floating design and they work actually quite well. We never fried them on here. Good job on that. All that out of the way, let's get it on the road and see how all this works.
All right, enough talk about that engine. Let's see what it does, Brian. Hit it.
Wait a minute, before we do that, we have a new tool in the show.
Yeah?
And that is the Racebox Mini.
Yes.
And we're gonna actually give you guys hard metrics on 0 to 60. And just for record, this is not on a prep surface. This is not a drag strip. These numbers may not be what you see on Motor Trend and Car and Driver. They are real world tests with GPS metered results. With that covered,
let's see what it does. Hit it.
Okay. Shifts at 6,000. Firm shifts, I like that, and 60. That was 0 to 60 in 5.99 seconds.
That was the best run.
That was the best run.
Our average run though was what?
6 flat.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Now the manufacturer claims 6.1, and we did several times do better than that.
You can get the V6, which we've mentioned. Obviously, that's going to be a much lower time, but this is the volume seller. This is what everybody's going to buy. That's what we wanted to
The V6 is about a second lower based on magazine results, just for reference.
All right, Brian, intended purpose, because we keep calling this, referring to a sport crossover.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Sports sedan, the hatchback sports sedan crossover. What is this thing? Intended purpose, handling, dynamics. Lay it on us.
On the surface, well, lay out the competition real quick.
Audi Q5.
Right, clearly.
BMW X3.
Yep.
Mercedes GLC.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, that's your main competitor.
Your main competitors.
Yeah.
Infinity's in there as well.
Infinity.
Those are all vehicles I look at as primary demographic is probably young families or young professionals. I drive this and I go, this is not a cute ute. Get that out of your mind and throw it away.
Right. No,
it's not what this is.
You're right. It's definitely not that.
It drives way too well for that. And we'll get to that again in a minute. But to its competition, where I think this is a premium small SUV, and this is going to be the one that's least. This is not a high spec model.
Right.
It's $50,000.
You can get sport trims. This is not that.
This is not that.
Yeah.
Now this has the advanced package. We have that, but it is not the V6 like we said, and it's not everything on it. But it's comfortable and it is really quiet. And for a Hyundai Kia product, I know this is Genesis. This is not Hyundai Kia.
Yeah.
This is the first product from them that we've driven that feels like the Audi and BMW engineers they've been scalping for years have made. I can tell the steering is really good, and dare I say, this steering wheel talks to me more than the last, several sports cars we've had.
Right. So this is, you mentioned the G70s, or it's based on that. It's based on the G70 platform. Right. It's a little bit longer wheelbase, but ever so slightly. What's good about that is compared to its competitors, this thing is low and wide.
Yes,
it's not a high seating point. It is higher than the sedan,
Right.
but it's not a high seating position for a crossover.
In fact, we put some people, my wife sat in this the other day and thought, well, you don't sit up high in here. And her expectation was SUV, you're up high.
Right.
But because of that, it drives really well.
Right. The negative is some people like that high seating position and SUV feel. The pro is exactly what you said.
Let's talk about the ride, because you live in a neighborhood that has the Baghdadi roads that are terrible. How did it work there?
I was genuinely impressed with the ride in this vehicle because it doesn't have any trick stuff like magnetic ride control
or air ride
or adaptive suspension. None of that.
Right.
But it rode incredibly well. In fact, there's some dips in my road that a lot of cars that we test will hit the bump stops and bottom out on.
Oh, yeah.
This never did that.
Even trucks will bottom out on that.
Even trucks will. This didn't do that. And what I love about the little bit higher ground clearance, you can go on some dirt roads. You can go on some bumpy roads, Baghdadi roads like you call them, and you don't have to worry about anything. And you got the clearance, and that's nice.
And so this begs the question, and we as journalists will sit here all day long and go, oh, the sedan's dead. Oh, it's crossovers and CVTs and all this stuff. Bring back the station wagon. Well, but we also like rallycross.
Right.
This is not an SUV in my mind. This is a sport crossover, which sounds like a bad thing. But man, it's everything I want out of it.
Well, and you mentioned it, sports sedan with a hatch is kind of what it is.
Yes, think of a Golf R.
Yes.
But bigger.
Right.
That's the way it handles well enough. It's in that category in terms of driver feedback.
Or if you want to keep it in the family, a Kia Seltos, more premium.
Definitely more premium. Yeah, well, and look.
But that fun to drive feel to it, tossable, rally feel,
That matters.
All right, we're going to give it the old hill test a try here. We'll see. Brian, we've got a pretty, not the best approach angle. What do you think?
No.
You think it's going to make it?
We know that a 24-degree approach angle is where it starts to scrape from other vehicles we've driven. This is saying it's about 20.
Yeah.
But the conditions have changed recently. We're going to roll on it and see.
Yeah.
And Craig's going to yell at me if it gets close. We don't want to scrape the nose in this thing.
And maybe don't take the hardest line.
Yeah, we'll take the softest line we can and see what happens.
But you do have some goodies that might help here.
We do. Yeah, I can see it scrape from the back.
So we'll see.
We'll see how that goes.
All right, let's see. Moment of truth. And we're going to stop there because if we go much further, we're just going to crunch the front bumper. And since this is not our car, we're not going to do that. And that's where we're at. So the hill test, Brian, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Okay, well, you told me, so.
All right, there we go. Whew, that was a fun shoot.
It was great.
But you know what? It wasn't free.
Absolutely not.
You know what else? Man, I love coffee.
Me too.
And that's where you can come into play, because for $3 on Patreon, you can be an official sponsor of this show. Help us do some things we like to do.
Buy us a cup of coffee.
Buy us a cup of coffee. For $5, you can buy us a thermos, because sometimes we have long shoots.
That gets us through a full shoot.
$10, Brian, what does $10 get us?
That makes you an official Texas Truck Channel hipster, and we will also review your vehicle and rate it on the Hipster Score on our show. So you'll send us a picture of your vehicle, give us a brief description, and we will rate it on our show.
And I'll tell you how he's wrong on his rating of your car.
I get it right every time.
Speaking of hipster ratings, what's the hipster rating of this car?
Easy. 3, 2, 1,
6.
Why do you keep doing that?
Well, because I'm smart and you keep copying me. This is clearly what's happening. I think all the viewers understand this. So
why did you get a 6?
I got a 6 because as a top viewer of ours said when he saw this car, my son, he said, "Dad, that's the perfect car for a hipster with a good job."
That tells you a lot about the appearances.
It does.
Look, I can go down the list of the Hipster Score. We've gone through this before. A Raptor is a 0, a Prius is a 10. This falls somewhere in the middle. It's not efficient enough to be that great, but it does kind of have hipster appeal. I was going to call it a 7. And I actively...
But because it's called Smart Stream, you...
No.
Okay.
No. Because the Apple CarPlay doesn't really work. So, not consistently at least. So that I took a full point off on that one.
So maybe if wireless CarPlay worked and it took regular fuel instead of premium, maybe an 8? Or that's too much?
No, it's too much.
Okay.
7 was going to be the cap anyways. It's not green enough. But the good news is, this will be an EV someday. We know
it will be. This is a perfect platform for that.
I kept thinking Mach-E the whole time in terms of size and proportion. And let's get into who it's for.
Well, yeah, and this is a good car. It's going to be a great EV. Yeah, who's this car for? You mentioned it earlier. I just tell them. You talked about how we don't really like this segment as most journalists or writers and car guys don't like crossovers.
You say the word crossover and you go, I'm out. It's in our grain. We're born to be that way. But
something happened with this one.
This thing drives well enough. It hit me. This is not to be thought of as a crossover. This is today's sports sedan because your 3 Series
with a hatch.
They're going away with a hatch. Think of a Golf R with a little more weight, but drives just about as well.
Yeah.
And has the room for your actual family to go in.
Pretty nice.
That's a really good combination.
And that says a lot about this vehicle, this actual vehicle behind us. It's that good. We don't like the segment, but now we're like, maybe this is a good segment because there's vehicles like this that exist.
It really does.
With that, Brian, thanks for watching. Tell them where to go.
TexasTruckChannel.com or YouTube.com with Texas Truck Channel. You just search us there. We're there. And that's pretty much it. Social media, the whole thing.
All that fun stuff.
All that fun stuff. And Patreon, of course.
All right.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.